Hello and welcome back to our journey through the lives that, though sometimes tragically cut short, left an indelible mark on the very soul of the world. Today we delve into the extraordinary, often turbulent, and ultimately heartbreaking story of a man whose voice was a balm, a whisper, a roar, sometimes all at once. He was a visionary artist who transcended the boundaries of genre, a voice that soared with passion, heartache, and an unshakable commitment to truth. We are going to explore the compelling yet profoundly tragic life of Marvin Gaye, the undisputed Prince of Soul. His was a journey from humble beginnings to the pinnacle of musical artistry, a path paved with soaring melodies and groundbreaking lyrics, but shadowed by profound personal demons, and a final devastating act of violence that silenced his unique voice forever. Just one day shy of his 45th birthday. Prepare to immerse yourself in the layers of genius, vulnerability, and contradiction that defined one of music's most revered and most troubled icons. To truly understand Marvin Gaye, the artist and the man, we must first transport ourselves to the mid-20th century, a transformative era in American history and culture. Born Marvin Pence Gaye Jr. on April 2, 1939 in Washington, D.C., his early life was shaped by a complex interplay of fervent religious belief, strict discipline, and the burgeoning sounds of urban America. This was a nation grappling with the lingering shadows of World War II, stepping into the Cold War, and, crucially, standing on the cusp of the civil rights movement. For African Americans like the Gays, it was a time of both profound systemic challenges and burgeoning hope, as calls for equality and justice grew louder. Marvin's childhood was steeped in the rigid tenets of the House of God, a conservative Christian sect led by his father, Marvin Gaye Sr., an ordained minister. Music was a fundamental part of his upbringing, but it was the sacred music of the church, gospel hymns delivered with unyielding fervor. His mother, Alberta Gaye, was a gentle, loving presence, often serving as a buffer between Marvin and his domineering, often abusive father. This early environment fostered Marvin's musical, prodigious talent as he began singing in church choirs at a very young age, developing an extraordinary vocal range and an innate understanding of harmony. But it also instilled deep-seated psychological conflicts, a lifelong struggle between his spiritual upbringing and the secular world of rhythm and blues, between his father's stern judgment and his own yearning for freedom and expression. The Junior in his name, a constant tether to his father, would later be dropped, a symbolic act of breaking away from a past that both nourished and tormented him. The cultural backdrop of the 1950s and early 60s saw the emergence of rhythm and blues, doo-wop, and then rock and roll, sounds that were rebellious, raw, and irresistibly danceable. Detroit Motor City was becoming a crucible of innovation, and soon a musical phenomenon known as Motown would explode onto the scene. This was the world that Marvin, restless and yearning for a different kind of music, longed to enter. It was a world that promised escape from the strictures of his home, a place where his voice could truly soar, unbound by sacred texts. This tension between the sacred and the profane, between strict upbringing and artistic liberation, would become a defining motif of his life and work. Marvin's path into music was anything but conventional, marked by a youthful restlessness and a quest for identity. At 17, seeking an escape from his oppressive home environment, he enlisted in the United States Air Force. Yet the military's rigid discipline proved ill-suited for his artistic temperament and independent spirit. He was discharged after only a short time for insubordination, unable to conform to the strict hierarchy and regimented life. This early defiance foreshadowed a lifelong struggle against authority, whether it was the church, his father, or later the legendary Berry Gordy at Motown. After his brief military stint, Marvin channeled his energies into music. He sang with several doo-wop groups, honing his vocal prowess on street corners and in small clubs. One notable group was the Moonglows, where he further refined his stage presence and harmonic abilities. But his ambition stretched beyond being just a singer. In a testament to his multifaceted musical talent, Marvin Gaye arrived at Motown Records in the early 1960s, not primarily as a vocalist, but as a session drummer. This is a detail often overlooked by those who only know his iconic voice. He played drums for many of Motown's biggest stars, including Stevie Wonder, the Supremes, and Smokey Robinson, and the Miracles. This period gave him an intimate understanding of the Motown sound from the ground up. The intricate rhythms, the layering of instruments, the meticulous production process. It allowed him to absorb the very DNA of the hit factory, even as he yearned for his own spotlight. Berry Gordy, the visionary founder of Motown, initially saw Marvin as a sophisticated crooner, a Black Frank Sinatra, rather than the raw R&B singer Marvin envisioned himself to be. This early miscasting, while leading to some exquisite romantic ballads, also sowed the seeds of his lifelong struggle for artistic control. Marvin's breakthrough as a solo artist came with a string of hits throughout the 1960s. Songs like Stubborn Kind of Fellow, Hitchhike, Can I Get a Witness, and How Sweet It Is to Be Loved by You established him as a distinctive voice in the Motown stable. His smooth, agile tenor, capable of both a tender whisper and a powerful falsetto, earned him the affectionate moniker the Prince of Soul. He also achieved tremendous success through a series of iconic duets with female vocalists, most famously with Tammy Terrell. Their voices intertwined with a chemistry that felt almost supernatural, producing timeless classics like Ain't No Mountain High Enough, Your Precious Love, and Ain't Nothing Like the Real Thing. These duets weren't just commercial triumphs, they were artistic masterclasses in vocal interplay and emotional depth. However, beneath this veneer of success, personal tragedies began to accumulate. In 1970, Tammy Terrell tragically succumbed to a brain tumor, a devastating loss that plunged Marvin into a deep depression. He had developed a profound bond with Tammy, both personally and artistically, and her death shook him to his core. He retreated from the spotlight, refusing to perform and contemplating ending his career. This period of withdrawal, while deeply painful, proved to be a crucible for his artistic transformation. It was during this time of introspection and grief that he began to challenge the formulaic approach of Motown, yearning for a deeper, more socially conscious form of expression. This yearning culminated in What's Going On, released in 1971. This groundbreaking concept album was a radical departure for Marvin and for Motown itself. Berry Gordy initially resisted its release, fearing its socially charged lyrics and sprawling jazz-inflected arrangements would alienate Motown's pop audience. Marvin had to fight tooth and nail for its release, famously refusing to record anything else until the album saw the light of day. This was a critical turning point in his career, marking his fierce struggle for artistic independence and creative control. The album, a poignant narrative from the perspective of a Vietnam War veteran returning home to social injustice, environmental degradation, and urban poverty, addressed issues like war, poverty, police brutality, drug abuse, and environmental pollution. Songs like the title track, Mercy, Mercy Me, The Ecology, and Inner City Blues, Make Me Wanna Holler, were not just hits. They were urgent, impassioned pleas for understanding and change. What's Going On was a watershed moment in music history, proving that commercially successful R&B could also be profoundly political and spiritually resonant. It became a cultural touchstone, cementing Marvin Gaye's legacy as an artist of unparalleled depth and conscience. It transcended the traditional boundaries of soul music, becoming a landmark in popular music as a whole, its influence reverberating for decades. This newfound artistic freedom allowed Marvin to explore new sonic and thematic territories. He followed What's Going On with the deeply personal and sensual album Let's Get It On in 1973, a celebration of love and sexuality that was both intimate and audacious for its time. It was another commercial triumph, demonstrating his versatility and his ability to connect with audiences on multiple emotional levels. His personal life, however, remained tumultuous. His first marriage to Anna Gordy, Berry Gordy's sister, which began in 1963, was fraught with tension and would ultimately end in a bitter divorce. The financial settlement from this divorce notoriously led to his next album, Here My Dear, 1978, a raw, unflinching, and at times brutal musical account of their dissolving marriage. This album, though not a commercial success at the time, is now widely regarded as a brave, groundbreaking work of confessional artistry, offering an unfiltered glimpse into his private pain and the complexities of his emotional world. He literally gave half the royalties of the album to his ex-wife as part of the settlement, and instead of lamenting it, he exposed the raw truth of their relationship through music. This was an act of profound, almost masochistic, artistic honesty, a rarely discussed period in Marvin's life, filled with both creative striving and profound personal turmoil, was his time in self-imposed exile in Europe, particularly London and Ostend, Belgium, in the late 1970s and early 1980s. Following the commercial disappointment of Here My Dear and battling mounting tax debts, drug addiction, and strained relationships, Marvin sought refuge from the relentless pressures of American fame and the watchful eye of Motown. This period was marked by deep loneliness, financial instability, and continued struggles with cocaine. He was effectively a superstar living in relative obscurity, often staying in cheap hotels or relying on the kindness of friends and new acquaintances. It was during this time, amidst his struggles, that a creative spark reignited. In Ostend, he found a temporary sense of peace and began to rebuild his life and career, finding inspiration in unexpected places. He embraced a healthier lifestyle for a brief period, even taking up cycling as a way to clear his mind. It was here that he began working on the material that would become his monumental comeback album, Midnight Love. This period of exile, though born out of desperation, proved to be a vital reset, a chance for him to disconnect from the chaos and reconnect with his artistic core. He walked away from Motown, a label that had defined his career, and signed with Columbia Records, a move that symbolized his final decisive break for complete artistic freedom. The struggles of this period, the isolation and the sheer grit required to create again under such circumstances, often get overshadowed by the brilliance of the music that emerged. The album Midnight Love, released in 1982, was a triumphant return. Its lead single, Sexual Healing, became an instant global phenomenon, a sensuous, rhythmically infectious track that brought Marvin back to the forefront of popular music. It topped the R&B charts for 10 weeks, reached number 3 on the pop charts, and earned him his first 2 Grammy Awards, one for Best Male R&B Vocal Performance, and another for Best R&B Instrumental Performance for the B-side, Sexual Healing, Instrumental. This success was a vindication, a testament to his enduring talent, and his ability to reinvent himself He embarked on a successful tour, performing with renewed vigor, seemingly healthier and more focused. But the demons were never truly banished. The pressures of touring, the old temptations, gradually eroded his fragile sobriety. Marvin Gaye's life was riddled with contradictions and controversies, not just in his public persona, but deeply rooted in his personal history. The most profound and unsettling historical debate surrounding Marvin Gaye centers on the exact nature of his relationship with his father, Marvin Gaye Sr., and the tragic culmination of that relationship. While the facts of his death, that he was shot and killed by his father, are undisputed, the underlying dynamics of their lifelong conflict remain a subject of intense speculation and painful reflection. Marvin's childhood under his father, a deeply religious and authoritarian figure, was characterized by brutal physical discipline and psychological torment. His father, a cross-dresser and an enigmatic figure, never truly understood or approved of Marvin's pursuit of secular music. Marvin often spoke of his father's cruelty, stating it was like living with a king, a very cruel, sadistic, and hateful king. This deeply strained relationship, filled with unresolved trauma and simmering resentment, fundamentally shaped Marvin's psyche and his music. His search for love, acceptance, and validation, particularly from a father figure, became a recurring theme in his life and often found its way into his most heartfelt compositions. The final act of his life, his death on April 1st, 1984, one day before his 45th birthday, was not a sudden random act of violence, but the horrific conclusion of a long-standing volatile family conflict. Marvin had returned to live at his parents' house in Los Angeles, ostensibly to help his ailing mother, but also due to his own worsening financial and psychological state, exacerbated by drug use. The household was a powder keg, with frequent arguments between Marvin and his father. On that fateful day, an argument escalated into a physical altercation. Marvin reportedly intervened in a dispute between his parents, leading to a violent confrontation with his father. Marvin Sr. retrieved a handgun, a weapon Marvin himself had given him for protection, and shot his son twice. He later claimed self-defense, though he pleaded no contest to voluntary manslaughter and received probation. The controversy here lies in the question of whether this was an act of premeditated murder, an accidental death, or the tragic outcome of years of psychological abuse and drug-induced paranoia on both sides. Some argue that Marvin, in his drug-addled state, pushed his father to the brink, knowingly provoking the confrontation. Others contend that Marvin Sr., fueled by resentment, religious fanaticism, and years of suppressed anger, finally snapped. The overwhelming consensus, however, points to the profound and damaging impact of a lifetime of paternal abuse on Marvin Jr., which created a volatile environment. Marvin himself, in the depths of his depression, had reportedly made statements about wanting to end his life, potentially even through this tragic confrontation. He reportedly said to his brother Frankie a few months before his death, "I'm going to get myself killed. I'm going to set up a situation where I get myself killed so I can get out of this." This disturbing quote adds a layer of complexity and profound sadness to the tragedy, suggesting a suicidal ideation that contributed to the final confrontation. It implies a man so deeply tormented that he inadvertently orchestrated his own demise at the hands of the very person who had caused him so much pain throughout his life. This is a chilling, emotionally striking fact that few casual listeners truly grasp about the final days of Marvin Gaye. His death was not just the end of a musical career, it was the ultimate horrifying consequence of a deeply dysfunctional family dynamic, amplified by the pressures of fame and the destructive force of addiction. It highlighted the devastating impact of unresolved trauma and generational conflict. The consequences and historical significance of Marvin Gaye's life and tragic death are immense and multifaceted. His music continues to resonate globally, influencing countless artists across genres. Rolling Stone magazine rightfully ranked him as the 6th greatest singer of all time, a testament to his unparalleled vocal talent and emotional delivery. His ability to fuse spiritual longing with sensual expression, to bridge the gap between sacred and secular, set him apart. His legacy extends far beyond his golden voice. Marvin Gaye redefined the scope of popular music. With What's Going On, he shattered the notion that R&B artists should stick to love songs, proving that commercially successful music could also be profoundly political and socially conscious. He opened doors for artists to use their platforms to address critical issues, paving the way for countless socially aware albums and movements. He was a pioneer of the concept album, meticulously crafting narratives and themes that flowed seamlessly from track to track, elevating the album format to a work of art. His music, particularly Sexual Healing, continues to be a staple in popular culture, celebrated for its smooth production, irresistible groove, and Marvin's incomparable vocal performance. However, his work has also been the subject of significant copyright disputes, most notably the highly publicized Blurred Lines lawsuit. In 2015, a jury ruled that Robin Thicke and Pharrell Williams' hit Blurred Lines infringed on the copyright of Marvin Gaye's 1977 song, Got to Give It Up. This landmark case ignited a crucial debate within the music industry about musical originality, inspiration versus infringement, and the protection of artistic legacy. It highlighted the enduring value and distinctiveness of Marvin Gaye's compositions, proving their deep cultural and financial worth even decades after their creation. This controversy further cemented his place as an artist, whose contributions are so foundational that they continue to shape legal and artistic discussions in the 21st century. His life is a testament to the fragile beauty of the human experience, a genius tormented by his past, desperately seeking peace, love, and understanding, both from his audience and, tragically, from his own father. He fought for artistic freedom, for self-expression, and for a voice that would resonate with the deepest truths of the human condition. His private pain fueled much of his public art, making it all the more compelling and relatable. In conclusion, Marvin Gaye was more than just a singer. He was a prophet, a poet, and a pioneer whose voice transcended notes and lyrics to touch the very soul of a generation. His untimely death was a profound loss, a moment when the music world collectively mourned the silencing of an irreplaceable voice. Yet even in his tragic passing, Marvin Gaye left us with an enduring legacy, an unparalleled body of work that continues to inspire, comfort, and provoke thought. His groundbreaking albums and timeless hits remain a testament to his genius, his courage, and his unwavering commitment to truth, whether it was the truth of social injustice or the raw, often uncomfortable truth of his own heart. His story, with its blend of soaring triumphs and devastating personal battles, ensures that Marvin Gaye, the Prince of Soul, will forever remain one of the most compelling and essential figures in the tapestry of American music. His music lives on, a vibrant, soulful echo of a life lived with passion, purpose, and ultimately, a tragic, heartbreaking final harmony. And that wraps up today's video. If this video resonated with you, please give it a like, leave a comment with your feedback, and subscribe to stay updated on upcoming videos. Appreciate you watching.